The worse Russia does in the conflict in Ukraine, the more I receive the question of what do you think is going to happen with Russia after the war? And to start outlining some kind of potential scenarios, we need to understand who are the people that are pulling the strings inside of Russia and who are the potential successors to the Putin's regime that is ruling right now. And this is what we're going to start covering with today's video. The first person to talk about is Ramzan Kadyrov, a brutal ruler of Chechnya. He is the son of Ahmad Kadyrov, a person who has fought in the Chechen wars against the Russians. In the first Chechen war, he actually was quoted saying that it is a solemn duty of each Chechen to kill at least 150 Russians. But then during the second Chechen war, when Putin essentially was put in charge to get Chechnya in line, he actually was the one who sold out Chechen resistance to Russia to Putin. He became essentially the first president of Chechnya by the order of Putin, because he basically betrayed all the Chechen resistance and he betrayed all the Chechen fighters. And in 2000, after the war, he was murdered in 2004. So after his murder, Ramzan was put in his place to oversee Chechnya. He was given just one task: pacify Chechnya, whatever means necessary. And this is what he did. Ramzan completely subjugated the people in Chechnya to his brutal rule. He tortured and killed all the ones who resisted whatever he wanted. And he is known to also not kill just the people that were committing some kind of a treason, as he puts it, against Chechen people and Chechen government, and also sometimes referring to it as a Russian government, but also their families and extended friends. He was executing essentially what we know to be executed around North Korea, when, for example, one family member would escape North Korea, but that will lead to severe punishment of the whole family. And this is the same signature that the Ramzan Kadyrov applied to Chechnya. So over the years of his brutal rule, Chechnya became a pacified state where people have been subjugated, and many people who opposed that were either killed, tortured, or had to flee. And even in fleeing, they were not always safe, because it has been known that some of the Chechen dissidents have been killed inside of Europe, and with little to no response from the European governments. Over the time of his rule, he has amassed a whole fighting force under his own command. A Chechen Spetsnaz or Chechen Commando, you can put it any way you want. I talk a little bit more about it in my What's the Problem with the Russian Military video that you can check out right here. But overall, it's quite an extensive group of forces that have been used as a part of Rosgvardia, but in actuality, they were just a personal army of Ramzan Kadyrov that he amassed over the years. They possess both firepower necessary to wage any kind of local war, and Ramzan Kadyrov has expressed that he is interested in the whole region of Caucasus, not just Chechnya itself. He has been known to have clashes with the Republic of Dagestan, that is neighboring Chechnya, and also claiming some of the territorial claims within the Russia in between Chechnya and Dagestan. So given the chance, he would definitely like to be in charge of bigger part of that region than Chechnya is currently. Second person to talk about is Yevgeny Prigozhin. He is known in the Russian talking sphere as Putin's chef. It is because he was the owner of a chain of restaurants that were known to be closely affiliated to the government, and where major events always were hosted. And obviously, whenever there is some kind of political guest that would come to visit Kremlin, it would be his restaurants that would supply the food and the event organization for those particular events. Prigozhin himself has quite a rich history. In 1980s, he got charged with 9 years in jail by the Soviet courts, as he was in a group with people robbing other people. They were assaulting women, like choking them and taking their belongings. Moreover, when I'm talking that he's overseeing restaurant industry, that doesn't mean that he's a businessman. He's also the person who was overseeing big part of the Moscow's gambling business and also prostitution industry. He has had his hands dirty in pretty much most of the organized crime one can think about. Moreover, in the US, he is tied to interfering in the US elections in 2016 and 2018. So he's a well-known player on the political stage. And more recently, we obviously know him for the fact that he is the owner and the leader of the Wagner mercenary company that is using basically Russia's industries to form a privately led, gray zoned company of mercenaries that are operating all over the world in hot zones and especially promoting Russian political agenda, for example, in Africa, Syria, and other places. So these two are well known to support Putin and play quite closely to his team. However, the tides are now changing within Kremlin, with the war in Ukraine being a complete disaster for the Russian military. It is becoming a problem for the whole state of Russia. And I've been saying this for some time now, and I want to exaggerate this again, that Russia is not more akin to European states that we get used to and think understand in the West, but more as an African warlord style dictatorships where the rule of might is what defines who is in charge. And there's just a little bit of a slight coat of paint with all the democratic procedures that are not actually performing. And in this sense, you can already understand where this is going. Russia's war in Ukraine that is failing is putting a huge pressure on the state and Putin himself. And right now, he's more and more weakening his position inside of the government. Right now, Prigozhin and Kadyrov are stating that they are fully in support of Putin. However, Putin is also understanding that his power is waning. He cannot trust the FSB because while FSB is powerful, and I will probably have a separate video about the FSB, and Rosgvardia is also quite powerful, these two forces are not armies per se. One is mostly an intelligence agency and enforcement wing, whereas the other one is a pacifying police force. Prigozhin and Kadyrov are outliers because while they're supporting Putin right now, they're both in control of their own private militaries that can enforce their will upon the Russian state. With the way that events are unfolding right now and Kadyrov getting promoted to Colonel General just some months from April, where he got promoted to Lieutenant General, that means only one thing, that Putin is not betting on the Russian army anymore. It seems more and more that the outline picture is that the Russian army will be blamed for disaster that happened in the Ukrainian conflict. And Putin is betting essentially on Kadyrov and Prigozhin to stand by him and support his regime. However, this will also mean that he will be fully dependent on these two personalities. And as much as he wants it, once he's gone, if everything follows the currently outlined path, it is going to be these two people that are going to be deciding where do they want Russia to go. How will they see the Russia? If they're going to separate the Russia peacefully, or they're going to start tearing it apart by Ramzan taking claim over Caucasus, completely separating himself from any kind of Russian land. Or it will be Prigozhin just trying to take over the whole of the Russia and rule it by force and how he sees it. Right now, we should follow closely these two people, and we need to understand that this will also be the part of the downfall of the Putin's regime, at least as a possible scenario. Over this coming weeks, we're going to cover a little bit more who are the players in the Game of Thrones that is happening right now in a crumbling Russian state that is because of this disastrous war in Ukraine. But for this video, it's over, so stay tuned, and I want to end up by just thanking all of the supporters of this channel. It is because of you for watching, liking, sharing, and a special thanks to all of the members within the Patreon or YouTube members of this channel. I'm running this channel non-profit. At least 50% of whatever I gain goes to support Ukrainian army, and the rest are going to stay to help grow this channel and improve the quality, the lights, etc. Thank you. See you next time. Slava Ukraini!